Jo Hendricks helps hotels reduce waste and adopt sustainability. I train hotels on disability inclusion and to adopt more accessibility using my board game Whoopie Town. We both joined hands to audit 4 hotels in the Canary Islands. It took a month and we spoke to hospitality leadership, ran the training sessions with their staff, and created value in knowledge and in action. Restaurant that's on the 5th floor with no elevator, or we'll go to a restaurant on ground floor with a ramp. Jo not just translated but also facilitated these trainings with me. She taught me that you work hard but you party harder. We traveled across 3 islands in car and by ferry. We both saw the Canary Islands from our respective lenses. We worked, had fun, but now we sit down to reflect on this journey, and this podcast is for anyone looking to learn from 2 women from different backgrounds, just passionate about the authentic work that they do around sustainability and disability inclusion. Enjoy! Hi everybody, so 1 month has passed like...
Do that again because I had a big cake in my face.
Hi everybody and Assalamu alaikum. I can't believe 1 month has passed and finally I'm getting a chance to sit down. Oh, I completely forgot this.
Yeah,
I was supposed to hold.
Yeah.
This should tell you that
Right, third time lucky.
we have another day job. This is not our day job. This should tell you that. Assalamu alaikum everyone. I can't believe 1 month has passed and we're sitting over here finally able to reflect on everything that we've experienced. This has been such a remarkable journey where I came from Pakistan, met Jo, and here in the Canary Islands, we're here to talk to the travel industry to tell them what accessibility and sustainability looks like. But there's so much to unpack over here, and I can ask you a basic question. Jo, how are you feeling right now?
Tired, I think. So negative first, tired and overwhelmed. Not that I would say negative, but amazed and happy, excited. Just a million different emotions, I guess, rolled into one because we've done so much, haven't we? And like you say, it's gone so fast. At first, I wondered how are we going to make a month last? Like, were we going to find enough to do? Was it going to be possible? How are we going to get every day filled? And it's actually been the total opposite. It's like, we haven't got enough time. We need more time. So I feel accomplished as well. I think we've done a lot, but I still feel like in my head, I've just got so much going on from what we've learned and done together. And there's a lot to kind of digest and unpack. But I feel like it's been brilliant.
I really agree with that because as you were saying all these things, it just took me back to that email that I wrote to you. And the first email was, "Hi Jo, let's just connect. It's going to be great." And then we kept brainstorming on coming to the collaboration details. And at the same time, what would it look like in the real world, the action of it. And then I remember at one point I wrote to you and I said, you know what, let's just do auditing. And there's so much around it. We could go into the training direction. We can take the content direction. And there is so much. And then we have got the board game as well. And I can say one thing that I had set the intention that this is going to be like a pilot of projects of us working together, understanding each other's working style. And if it's successful, it's going to become huge. So that is something I knew. And at this stage, I can say I do think it was a successful collaboration and I think it will become huge.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't know if I really knew what to expect in that way, or I didn't have, I guess, your clarity of your vision of what you wanted to achieve because I didn't fully know you properly yet. We hadn't had the chance to kind of work together. We hadn't looked at audit questions together. So everything that you wanted to do, I guess, was in your head, which I understood. And I had a kind of overview of what we were going to be doing. But I really started to understand the power of what we were doing, even on the first day. You know, once we started and we were going around the hotel, I'm thinking, right, you look for certain features in a hotel and along the corridors and in the bathrooms, and I look for certain features from a sustainability perspective. And then how much I've missed or how much I would miss out from not having your accessibility perspective. And now you just see how it all comes together. And like, there's no, because accessibility for me is part of sustainability, and you can't or you shouldn't really just do one area on its own. But now you just see how it all fits in, which is why I know it can just be so big, because every aspect of sustainability needs to be, you need to go to a certain level of depth with it. You can't just do it on the surface. You've got to do it properly, but you can't do them independently of each other, because you make a change in one area, it has an impact on another area, or staff need to be informed, etc. So I think that's where I started to see the power of what we were doing together, when we actually you shot off on your wheels on the first day, and I realised, my God, I'm not going to keep up with what you've got to do. And that was just brilliant, I think, seeing how that all came together. So the theory that we'd kind of written into the Erasmus of what we were going to do, it just came to life immediately, like from the page into life, and you're like, yeah, this is what we're going to be able to do.
Absolutely. And I think, speaking of power, I also want to highlight that where I come from, Pakistan, I think gender is always a big topic to discuss about what are we going to do, who is going to do it. Now, the who aspect is really big there. And if men do it, there's a different kind of success around it. But if women do it, there's a different kind of success around it. Now, if disabled women do it, that's an entire different channel of success and of achievement. Here, I do want to share that I was mindful of the fact that I am a Pakistani Muslim woman, and I am flying out to one of the most powerful travel spaces, because the Canary Islands is like a huge touristic destination, and they know what they're doing. And most of these hotels are run by powerful families. Mm-hmm. And to be in that space, and then I saw you, and I'm like, okay, Jo is a British woman. She's in the Canary Islands. We're both women, completely opposite to each other in every way. Like, I have a disability, you were walking, able-bodied, and then in every way, I could go on. And yet we came together to tell them what to do about these really important areas. So I was like, this is the powerful aspect of it as well, about our profiles and where we come from.
Yeah, and I think it's easy sometimes to feel like a bit of an outsider. Like, I sometimes think, who am I to go to a place? And I don't like saying the word tell you what to do. I like to think about it as bringing my perspective to something. But sometimes I feel like that, who am I to come from outside within? But then a lot of people will say to me, when they're asking for assistance, when they're looking for recommendations, that even in their own companies, it's almost like people from outside are believed more than people inside the company, which is really true. And even if the people inside the company say exactly the same thing as I would say from outside of the company, it's like people believe me more. And whether I'm man or woman, whatever, I think that's the case in most cases. You kind of believe that there's this expert, and so they must be right on it. But I think in the travel space, for me, there is a lot of women. There's a lot of women leaders in tour operations, where I've kind of spent most of my life, in hotel managers. There's a lot of women leaders in hotels, etc. So, possibly very different to how it would be in the industry in Pakistan. But here, I don't feel it's been like a disadvantage for us doing this work together. I feel like it's actually been a more powerful collaboration, because you bring a totally different aspect of diversity as well, which I think people are really interested to know and understand more about. And being the disabled person, everybody said in all of the hotels that we've gone to, that's been the key driver of finding the small details that make a difference that other able-bodied people would miss. And so I think it depends maybe on the scenario that you put yourself in. But here, being a Muslim woman from Pakistan in a wheelchair, I think puts you in a really powerful position and people want to listen and they want to hear what you've got to say and they want to learn from all of the travels that you've done and everything that you've seen previously, because you can give them real world examples of how to make things better. I mean, that's what we're doing. You can tell them where to find, you know, different types of tools or equipment or something. You know what to tell them to do, and they want that. They've invited us in to do that, so it's not, they're not frightened of it. They don't think it's strange. It's like, wow, look at this amazing opportunity for these people with your background and my background to come together and actually offer that whole holistic service. I think that's been like the beauty of it.
I think very rightfully put, because we often approach something with a certain preconceived idea, and unfortunately media has constantly reinforced the idea that if you're a minority you will not have power status, you're unable to provide good feedback or good leadership because you're a minority and no one can relate to you. And being in this country, I'm absolutely the minority, because one, I am an outsider. I've hardly seen anyone in a hijab. I've seen a lot of people in a wheelchair, but my combination makes me really stand out. But very rightfully put, Jo, by the end of this month, I have learned a very good lesson that all of these things that are actually making you stand apart is your power. Yeah. And you can always bring it back into the group with that ideas. Yeah. Now, if I go stand in the corner and say, I'm not one of you, please don't invite me to the party, no one's going to do it. Yeah. But if I come to the party and say, you know what, I come from a certain region, I make this amazing dish and I want to bring it to the party, everyone would love to know what that dish is about and they would invite me to come. And I think it's a lesson that a lot of women need to learn, that do not close doors on yourself. Yeah. Especially in power positions. At the same time, I also wanted to discuss a little bit about your preconceived idea. You knew I was going to come from Pakistan, but I've lived in Sweden. What were your initial thoughts? I'm curious to know. Before meeting me, we've only been in touch on email. So what was your preconceived idea about me?
I think I don't know how preconceived my idea would have been about you as a Muslim woman from Pakistan. My preconceived idea was more probably around the disability angle. So because I've travelled a lot, I love different cultures, love different people. I've probably got some internal unconscious biases somewhere around people that perhaps I'm not conscious of, but they happen. But generally speaking, who people are, what they look like, where they come from, doesn't even enter into my head about like a preconceived idea. But the disability thing, I was starting to think, how are we going to manage it? Like, where are you going to stay? What if this is really difficult and challenging? What if I can't deliver on what it is that you need? What if I say something wrong? Do I even say the word disabled? How do I refer to you? Do I refer to you as a disabled person? Or is that right or wrong? And I don't know if you noticed, but you know, when we were doing the interviews with people, sometimes when they would do it in English with you, you might have picked it up, but the ones doing it in Spanish with me would say, so, you know, when you've got a disabled person, and they'd kind of stop and think, should I have said that? And then you know what they were going to say next, where they were going to say, as opposed to a normal person, and they stopped themselves. Yeah. And I would stop myself, but I probably have had the same, I was going to say the same words maybe in the same way, and then you think, well, what's normal? Who am I to say that? How do I refer to it? So I guess my preconceptions were a little bit more around, not about you generally, so maybe not even a preconception, but more of a concern about how I was going to do things in a respectful way. And I think that's where it came from more. So because I know that you travelled a lot, you've been all over the world, you're obviously an open person to everything, you know, like I am. I know that you wouldn't be, or I assumed you wouldn't be drinking alcohol, etc., etc. I also assumed you probably wouldn't mind if I did, because we're kind of open people and that kind of way. So those kind of just be yourself moments and accept somebody else for who they are, that's just how I generally get on in life. But the how to manage being with somebody, not 24/7, but practically with a disability that I'm not used to. That's where I got my concerns. And then do you remember when we went to the shopping centre and I was like, oh my God, I don't even know if you can get out the car park. I'm going to take you to a car park and I don't even know if you can get out. You know, there must be a lift. Clearly there'll be a lift. Other people need lifts, but I don't know where it is. And so it just made me think, oh my God, now I'm going to take you into Las Palmas. I don't even know where I can take you to. And so the first couple of days I was like, I know nothing about the country I've decided to live in terms of how somebody with a mobility issue can get around it. And so that opened my eyes. And Keith said the same thing when we were in Fuerteventura. And I said, well, don't forget Tanzila's in a wheelchair. If we're going out, we need to be able to get somewhere in a wheelchair. And he was like, oh my God, right, let me think about it. You know, and so I guess, yeah, more the concerns around the actual moving about with it. And yeah, more than anything.
You know, I'm thinking that a lot of these things that you've said are some things that I think about as well, but in terms of, okay, that was I don't know what that was, but blah. Okay, you know, a lot of things that you said are things that I also think about, but from the other side of the mirror. For example, I would think that, what if I become a burden to her? What if, like, it's a very heavy word. I shouldn't be just throwing it out there like that. But this is how people with disabilities see themselves, that we want to be less and less dependent on anyone, whether it's our families, even friends, spouses, children. We don't want to be dependent. If we need support, then we properly hire an attendant who's supposed to help us. But relationships have a different purpose. And involuntary caregiving becomes this huge, you know, underlying issue that no one addresses, but it affects the relationship. So in our case, I was definitely concerned. I remember when you said, okay, I'm bringing the car to pick you. And I thought to myself, that sounds so lovely to just, you know, go on a drive with Jo and Marcel. But what if the wheelchair doesn't fit in and I become a nuisance? It's day one, it's moment one. And my introduction is, hi, I'm Tanzila, and immediately they find out that she's such a nuisance. Of course, she's not, I mean, you're not going to say anything, but we're all humans. We all know discomfort from comfort. And we just started, and we were supposed to travel to like 3 different islands. I knew there's going to be a lot of movement. What about the wheelchair? So if you remember, I kind of tried to dodge out of the situation. It was for the same reason, because I did not want to put you or Marcel in that position of folding the wheelchair hassle. But it worked out. And at the same time, when I realized that there's going to be more driving around, I'm like, what are we going to do about the wheelchair? I have to make sure. So to combat that, I took responsibility of finding someone to put the wheelchair in the car. So I don't put you in that position. And I also feel that particularly I would look for guys, not that I undermine the strength of women, but I do feel that men are physically stronger to carry something like that. Women are strong in a different way. But that is also something that I would question myself on, that who am I likely to ask for help? And in my head, I'm like, for a cerebral challenge, I'm going to go to women. For a physical challenge, I'm going to go to men. So
we've got our own prejudices in some ways. In, you know, not, we don't mean that badly or anything, but I noticed the same thing. So when I was looking down the street, because the wheelchair is a pain in the arse, totally pain. I mean, thank God Prasanth was on the plane the first day to actually show us how to do it, because then at least we did it right from there on. I think they're very heavy. They haven't been designed very well. If the back wheels would actually work, the big wheels, when the thing was switched off, you would manage a lot better and you wouldn't bash your feet and your legs all over the place. So that's a problem I had to try to negotiate, that you don't need to worry about in that way. But like you were saying, you're like concerned about it. And I appreciated you finding people, because I'm not necessarily the sort of person that likes to ask for help. Do you know, it's not that I don't like to ask for help. I don't like to feel like I'm bothering somebody else. So in the same way that you didn't want to feel like you were bothering me, I don't want to bother somebody in the street at the same time. Whereas after a while, I got used to that and I was more comfortable with it. And everybody said yes, and the women helped as well. If there was a woman going along on her own and she happened to be there, I'd just say, would you help me? Not ask her to do it on her own. And that was the funny thing. Most women helped me and we did it together. Most men wanted to lift the thing on their own. Oh, wow. But then they were pulling the handles out. And I'm like, don't remember, and one of them took the battery off. And I'm like, just wait, man. There's a way to do it. There's a way to do it. Stop dragging it off. So that was quite interesting because as women, we worked on it together and men wanted to do it on their own. So the worst part of it for me was lifting that thing in and out the car. It was the part that I dreaded, even if it only took me 10 seconds. But that's just because it's as heavy as a suitcase, and I can get a suitcase in the car easily, but because a suitcase has got handles and you don't get your arm trapped in little bits where you're like, oh God, what's that's poking in. So it's the awkwardness of it, which you're obviously well aware of and you didn't want to put us through. But at the same time, then I'm like, well, it's your life, that thing. Who am I to get annoyed at it when that's what gives you your opportunity to get around and do whatever it is, as independently as you can. So no, I'm not gonna, it's not bothering me physically. I think because if I hadn't had my hip replacement, I'd have been a lot more happy about balancing it on my leg and getting it in. So that was if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have been as bothered with it at all, really. But I can understand where you're coming from. But then this whole burden thing, that just became apparent everywhere we went, didn't it? So when we'd go into a room and we'd be like, right, what are you going to do if you want the bottle of water? Because it's on the shelf and you can't reach it. So it's not, society generally and everything, the way that it's built, isn't thought about people who have got mobility issues and use wheelchairs. So you're just generally lower down. Nothing's been built, nothing's been created with your independence in mind. There's always been something where you've needed somebody else to do something for you or to help you get something, whether it's a hotel, employee that's taking you to the room and we had to say, can you bring the water down already? Because you could see that straight away. Whether, they expect you to be with a partner, don't they? And they think, right, well, their partner would get that down. You're like, well, like you say, where does the independence come from? You don't want to be a burden to your family, to the people who you're in relationships with. Yes. What if they've gone to sit by the pool all day and you've come back for a rest and you want a drink of water and the glasses are too high for you to reach? Just simple things like that where, and then we were saying, if they had a policy that you see a reservation for an accessible room with one person, well, go and have a policy to bring the shower head down and not leave it in the upright position where they're going to have to they're in the shower ready to go and then realise they can't reach it. What do they do? Pull the emergency cord, have to get dressed again so that you can come in. All of those little things. Bring the hangers down from the top shelf to the bottom shelf. You've got the bottom shelf, that's brilliant, to the bottom rail, fab. But if all the hangers are up there when you get in, what are you going to do about it? So if you've got some facilities, have a process as well to make sure that people feel independent, even if they're coming on their own, even if they're coming with somebody else. Do that so that when they go in, wouldn't it be brilliant if you'd gone into one of the places that we'd been to and went, oh my God, they have thought of everything and I have got no recommendations. Didn't happen. Could have done if we mixed them together. If we took all the best practices from different places, could have happened. And that's where I think we'll get to. But it's the whole burden thing. I don't want to bother somebody. I don't want to bother somebody asking for vegan food or vegetarian food all the time. Or when we went around the buffet, I'm to say, what's in that? Because if there's fish in it or meat in it, but I can't tell because there's no signs. And it's like, I just won't have it because everyone's so busy. I don't want to bother them. And so that's my thing. I didn't want to bother people to have to help me with that wheelchair.
In my case, I also feel that I have developed this mental protocols on what to do in situations like these. So in my head, I'm like, if my wheelchair has to be transported, it is my responsibility. So I'm not going to put Jo in the position that she has to ask for help, even if it's a few milliseconds of discomfort. that's not her responsibility, that's my responsibility. So even if I'm with my family, it depends. If it's my now this is where it gets interesting. If it's my dad or my brother, of course they're just going to pick up the wheelchair, put it in the car. And in Pakistan we usually commute with the car as well. We don't take buses or trains because they're not accessible, and also they're not considered that safe, considering the traffic of it, not the gender aspect of it. A lot of women travel in these public transports, but it's too rushy, so you might fall off or injure yourself, something like that. So in Pakistan, if I'm traveling with my friends, for instance, most of them are girls in Pakistan, and so now we both are there, and she has to put the wheelchair in.
Yeah.
So I would do the same. I will ensure somebody is there, because I don't want to put her in that position as well and take responsibility for it. But that kind of that is these are the disadvantages that people with disabilities have, that they have to plan further ahead in their life. They can't relax. They have to take care of themselves, they have to take care of other things, and no one trains us to do that. No one mentors us. I've never had any mentors. I've only had to figure things out on my own. So you get exhausted much more quickly. You have this decision fatigue. So naturally in the race of life, you fall somewhere behind, no matter how talented you are. Because I spent 20 minutes trying to get the glass up from the top shelf, whereas you have completed this course on AI. In the meantime, you have gotten your dream job. You're ahead in the line. I'm still here trying to figure out, how do I get the glass down? I want to drink water. And that's true. So it's this inequality that we face is because of the basics of how the world is designed. And now to fit into that world, the able-bodied world, we have to do these drills of finding someone. Lucky for me that we both are in the headspace to analyze and understand what's what and learn from it. And we beautifully took it to our professional space as well, to provide that feedback back to the people that we are working with. I'm glad that we're talking about these things, because it can really affect professional relationships as well. And a lot of people with disabilities don't get hired because employers feel that things like these would happen. They're going to have so many extra needs, we don't have time and energy to do that. Let's get someone who's not in a wheelchair, So now I also want to highlight a little bit about the destination that we're at. And I've only read about Canary Islands very briefly. I've only heard about the Canary Islands. Very interesting positioning. Of course, it's a Spanish. It's a Spanish. What's the right way to put it? Occupied space or what? Like what?
It's Spanish territory.
It's a Spanish territory.
But they are autonomous territory
in their own way.
Even though they belong to Spain, their governments are autonomous. Okay,
and I'm also in the process of unlearning colonial language, because as a traveler I've developed that lens, and I need to understand what exactly happened at a destination, and you've probably picked it up with my my curiosity about the destination as well. But before we come to the destination, Jo, I would love it if you can just tell me a little bit about your background and how did you come to the Canary Islands? What has your journey been like?
So first time I came to Canary Islands would have been on holiday, because my mum and dad used to take us on lots of package holidays. We were really lucky. And that stayed with me the whole time. And even through growing up, I always knew that I wanted to be a holiday representative, which means somebody that lives in a destination, works for a holiday company, looks after people in the hotels, makes sure they're okay, takes them to and from the airport, etc. I always knew I wanted to do that, even though some things along the way, got in the way. I worked in the police force for a while as a 999 operator, not as a policewoman. That was it was really interesting. I was quite young when I got that job, so I was only 20, 21. So it's answering the emergency calls and then dispatching police officers, etc. So it was really, really good, and I loved it, absolutely loved it. But I just had this thing eaten at me to say, it was a bit silly, but why did you learn Spanish in school for 7 years if you're going to sit here in Liverpool and never work in Spain? So I thought, right, I'll take a career break. I'll go for 1 year, get it out of my system, and then come back, to this well-paid job with a good, retirement plan and everything in it and all of that. So I went for a year and I never came back. I just stayed in Spain. And then my second year I got sent to Gran Canaria as a rep, and I loved it. And I was off to Mallorca. I've done stints in Egypt, and I got an opportunity to come back to Gran Canaria, but as a health and safety auditor. So I'd kind of moved up and been promoted. So that was really great. And then I was there for 7 years, or here for 7 years, because we're back here now. And then the sustainability job came up, and that meant I had to move back to the UK. So I took that because I really wanted to be in the sustainability space. I'd already started doing sustainability stuff with hotels, because we had these like small programs that somebody in the UK office was looking after. And you see the impacts of tourism on a destination when you've been in it for such a long time, and you want to be part of the solution rather than part of the problem. So when that job came up, but it meant leaving Gran Canaria, which was hard, to be fair, but I really, really wanted to move into that sustainability space. And that was back in 2007 or 2008. And so that's how long I've been in sustainability. But what that gave me the opportunity to do was travel all around the world, and to all of the destinations that Thomas Cook sent customers to, and to work with hotels there, with the overseas teams, to try and get more sustainability in the day-to-day of the office and the excursions, help the hotels prepare for their travel life audits. And so that just became, the way of life for me for, that would have been 7 years. Literally kind of traveling the world and doing sustainability, which was fabulous. And when I left Thomas Cook in 2014 to do my own thing, just because there'd been a change of management and it didn't quite suit what I wanted to do anymore, but I'd always wanted to come back to the Canaries. Always. So at the point when I had my own consultancy business with a business partner at the time, and I thought, I work from a laptop. Why don't I just go back? And so we came back. Marcel came with me then, because I was with Marcel at that point. We moved back here, and we've just been in that sustainability space ever since. Oh. Yeah, and wouldn't change a thing. Yeah, so, the ups and downs, all of it, I think you learn through everything. It's where I'm supposed to be. It's where I love to be. And wouldn't change a thing.
Well, I think this is a classical example of that borders don't define us. Passports don't define us. We could belong to any space that we want. We could fall in love with the space. And also a classic example of the space falling in love with you. Because I'm a firm believer that we get chosen. We don't really choose. We get chosen by destinations. Destinations invite us to become a guest, to walk on the land of that place. And it's very holy because everything is living. Everything is alive. And I sometimes say that about food as well, that I don't choose my food, the food chooses me, Tanzila. We want to give you a tantalizing experience. So, and so for books as well, that books choose you to become a guest into their world. So in your case, I clearly see that I think the Canary Islands fell in love with you. And the universe kept creating those opportunities to take you back here. And clearly why? Because of the important work that you're doing over here. So it all makes sense. And that's something that I would aim for, that I would want destinations to fall in love with me as well and invite me. And if I go there, I don't abuse them. I don't litter. I don't violate anything. But I provide value. If nothing, just good vibes. And in this case, I think one of the luckiest people in the world to be invited by so many destinations. Speaking of Canary Islands, I never thought I would come to countries like these, places like these, because that's not something you think about. You're always thinking about your bills and how you're going to survive. When are you going to get married? How many kids are you going to have? These are the aspirations that we grew up with. But then one day you're like, no, there's a destination out there and they make amazing Canadian potatoes. So I think now when I wake up in the morning, I'm like, where am I having Canadian potatoes? I mean, I love it. And being in the Canary Islands and understanding its history, I've realized that it has its own beauty, the landscape. I've never seen this beauty anywhere in my life. It's so unique. The world is so different out there. You've traveled. And then I know that we went to Fuerteventura and Lanzarote. Those gave me more like town vibes, like, and the whole islands were like so different from north to south. The rock formation, the greenery, the water, the color of the water. And then once you meet people from those islands who've lived there for like 15 years, 20 years, you feel that they are part of the island in all essence. They are the island. They are bringing life to that island. It's a beautiful combination of nature and people. And then it reflects in the food. I have had the best food here. Like, my favorite ones are garlic prawns, potatoes, of course, and then there was one more thing, the fried cheese. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, have we figured out where we're going for lunch after this? Because it's going to get hard for me.
Last day for tapas.
It's last day, tapas. Yeah, and the whole concept of tapas as well. It's a very Spanish concept, I believe, to share food and to have little quantities of everything.
Do you know where it came from?
No, tell me.
Right. So a tapa. So tapa means lid. So like the coffee lid, or so a tapa is a lid. Okay. And so years and years and years ago, what used to happen was when you would be given, like, I don't know, a small glass of beer or wine or something. So this is what I've heard anyway. So that flies didn't get in it, or they would put a little kind of saucer on the top and a tiny little piece of something. It might even be like 2 olives or a tiny piece of an omelette, of a Spanish omelette. But because it was the lid, it was called a tapa, but it also always came with a tiny little piece of food on it. Okay. And so tapas, small little items of food, not big meals. And that's supposedly, I'm sure somebody might say that I'm wrong that's listening to this, but that's what I heard of where it came from.
Could be, because sometimes even like big concepts come from something very simple as that to solve a problem, but then it evolves with the effect of it, that people are actually aiming for this kind of experience of having their beer or their coffee and have little food with it, rather than one giant meal. And I think for someone who loves buffets because of the variety of food that you could try, this is one good way of not wasting food and having a variety as well. And lucky for us, like, you're a vegetarian and I'm a Muslim, so it's so easy to dine with you because I know what we're getting and I could eat vegetarian food easily. And the food here has been a delight, and they don't use spices, because I remember this one time I had a margherita pizza and I wanted chili flakes. And I asked for them, the restaurant didn't have them. And I said, okay, you know what? I'm going to go to the supermarket and I'm going to get some chili flakes of my own. I couldn't find chili flakes in the market. And that's when I thought that they don't need chili flakes because they're using other ingredients. So you need to enjoy the food the way it is and not try to bring your own. So do I on margherita. I just love it on margherita. But I kind of accepted my fate and had the pizza without the margherita, which wasn't too bad. It was good. Apart from food, what I really enjoyed was the whole experience of the water, because in Pakistan the only water access we have is in Karachi, is in the south of Pakistan, and they are connected with the Arabian Sea. So that's like connected over there, and but we don't do water activities. We don't go to the beach. We don't really. It's not something that we do. So I only do it when I travel, and beaches are not accessible. But here I was able to experience a lot of water-related activities, whether it was going in the pool or it was going to the beach, sitting by the beach, reading. All of those things were really special, and the water is so alive. It talks to you. It welcomes you. It wants to touch you. It wants to shake hand. It wants to, just interact with you. And I really felt a lot that these islands are really special. People who live here are very special, and people who visit. I also got a chance to meet the immigrant community, because I would order food from Indian restaurants. So they would deliver. And this one very interesting interaction happened, that I called an Indian restaurant and they were speaking in Hindi, and I said, look, you know what, I'm from Pakistan, really craving something spicy, can you please put something together which is halal? They said, okay, we got you. And the way that girl on the other end handled my query sounded so professional. and so well trained. And then she said, we don't deliver through the app Glovo, but I can come and deliver it personally because you're so close by. And I said, okay. And when she showed up, she was just 17 years old. And I was blown away with the professional etiquette that she had, the way she handled my query. I loved it. And I was so inspired. And she's just a young girl who's come from India. And I thought to myself, she is going to be the face of this island in the next 10-15 years, because people like her really hold up the space as well. So I think Canary Islands have been very kind to me. And I hope to come back over and over again. And we're already having a good relationship with the islands yourself. So it's going to be amazing. And now just moving on into a deeper conversation around the purpose of our collaboration was auditing. And I would like us to just dive into what did we actually do? Like, in your perspective, what do you think we've actually done with that?
So before you actually got here and got off the plane, we created a question set, didn't we? Because for me, auditing, I don't want to say it's a tick box exercise, because it isn't, but I do have a list of questions that I will tick off if the hotel provides enough evidence that they are meeting the requirement. And I'm the kind of person that likes to do that. So we created a whole question set. I can't even remember how many questions was on it now, but there was a lot when we broke it down, because you can ask a question, but if you ask too many questions in one question, you don't know how to answer it. So, for example, I had a question in there about whether there were whether there was braille on the lift buttons, so that people knew what floor they would be pressing if they were blind. But in the same question, I asked if there were announcements about what floor you are in or what you've landed on in the lift. Sometimes there's braille, but there's no announcement. Sometimes there's an announcement, but there's no braille. And so you have to have separate questions, otherwise you don't know whether you're going to answer yes or no. And so I think what it led me to create is the kind of checklist that I like to use, where I feel like I've covered everything I possibly can for all different types of disabilities, cognitive, audio, visual, mobility, etc., with your input into that. And then we sort of swapped a bit, didn't we? So you had the sustainability checklist and audit as well, that you'd been able to see what I'm normally looking for. And so we were going in then with different perspectives into different parts of the hotel. So what we really wanted to find out was, how accessible are you as a hotel? And what I learned very quickly, and where I think we really need to change the way that we talk about it, is accessibility to people who are able-bodied means infrastructure. It doesn't mean guest experience. Now, some of this I kind of knew already. So like years ago, I would always ask hotels, and I would go into them to do quality audits, why does your disabled bathroom look like a hospital bathroom? When the rest of the hotel rooms look beautifully decorated, and you open the bathroom door and it's white tiles, it looks like a public toilet or a hospital space. It doesn't look like the rest of the bathrooms. How does that make somebody feel when they're supposed to be on holiday? So that's always kind of caught my attention as something that stands out. But when we were doing it with you and you live in the experience, that's when you find out, like what we said before, some things are too high. The water glasses are too high. You know, you sat on the shower chair and you could reach the shower, but you couldn't reach the shampoo. Or you had to practically, you know, chair yoga to be able to get back. And so what that gave us, I think, in terms of auditing, was this real understanding, not an understanding that people don't understand what it's like to come to a place and try to live that experience as a guest. And so that became very, very quickly obvious to me. And then when we'd walk into, like, you know, the public bathrooms, and you'd be looking at, right, there's a bin there and it's a pedal operated bin. I've got no legs here. How am I supposed to put something in the bin? If I need to dispose of something while I'm in the loo, how exactly am I supposed to manage that? You know, and things where very responsible people who really believed that their hotels were accessible were like, oh my God, didn't even think of that. You know, and so you're going in looking at that, and I'm going, right, I can hear a water leak. I can look at that. The water's moving on the bottom of the toilet. That means water's dripping through there. I'm going in there with a totally separate set of questions in my head, because that's what I've done for years. And so now I feel like I would go into a place with your questions, my questions linked together, and you'd probably do the same thing. If you go in, you hear water dripping, you'd be like, uh-oh. Yeah, I'm looking for accessibility, but you've clearly got a water leak somewhere that you need to fix. So I think what it gave us was that really good overview of how you help, because I never see an audit as like the police coming to check on you. Do you know, it's, for me, it's show me everything, good, the bad and the ugly, because what I'm here to do is help you to make it better if you want to make it better. And I'll just tell you everything. So let's find out all of the things that aren't working. And that sounds bad, but I will always say this at the beginning of an audit as well, that I don't have time to hear about every single good thing that you're doing. I have to look for the things that aren't right, because there'll be less of those. Yes. There'll be more of what you're doing right, less of what you're doing wrong. And because audits are, you know, sometimes they have to be a short space of time, you can only do in a day. I have to look for the negatives. But at the same time, I'm taking in the positive information. I just don't have to ask questions about it because I'm seeing it. Yes. And so that's where I got your perspective completely, by listening to the questions that you would ask from the conversations that you've had with other people that were in the hotels in wheelchairs, for example, from your own narrative back to me about how your experience has been, or you just, you know, tell us what you'd found out or what you thought about it, etc. And then from your opportunity to watch Adrienne doing the Travel Life audit to help the hotel to prepare for that, I think it just gives you a wider appreciation of all the things that a hotel needs to do in order to be, let's say, globally sustainable. And we were able to achieve that, go like really deep with those questions, and using those questions to then be able to provide them like an action plan or the reports that we've been creating for them. And so that's the whole point of it, is to find out what they've done well. So it's a kind of praise sandwich. You know, this was really great, this was fabulous, you've got this great stuff, but people don't know about it, communicate it better. So, you know, we went in looking at everything, looking at the guest experience from before they even travel. How do they find out about you? How, you know, we did the communications side of it. What's on their website? What's on their social media? Is it obvious? Is it easy to find out about their accessibility policies, the rooms, the activities that people can do? So if you look at the customer journey before, during and even after the travel, that's how we kind of situated our auditing focus. So we looked at the whole thing, and the guest experience lens was as important, if not more so, than the infrastructure lens. And like you said, if somewhere isn't accessible in a place, that's fine. You don't expect every single thing to be completely accessible for, if we talk about mobility, for every type of wheelchair or every type of, you know, mobility aid that somebody might need to use. But if it isn't, you should know about it. And then you can make a better decision, because you're paying the same money to stay in this place. So, you know, in one place, you wouldn't have really even been able to get into the pool. But you're paying the same money to get to stay there.
Access to those facilities.
Yeah, and you don't have. And so I think that's why I will never call it an accessibility audit again. I would call it an accessibility and inclusion audit through the lens of the guest experience, which I know is a really long name, but that's what we've got to do. Because accessibility in terms of how wide is the door, have you got a lift, is there a ramp? Right, well, if the ramp's like that, that's no good either. You know, so it's not all about the infrastructure. And I think our audits helped us to see that architects don't understand it. When even at refurbishment, you know, when they're thinking of refurbishments, that's the exact point when they need to get somebody like you in, you know, and others with other disabilities to say, right, how would I be able to manage this? and I think we've really seen that it's such a massive helpful tool to be audited from a professional but respectful way. So we're not in there shouting at them. You're not in there kicking off because things aren't, as you would like them to be.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, you must go into places, I don't know, I wanted to ask you that and say, do you go into a hotel room and just go, for God's sake, not again?
All the time.
Yeah. And how does that feel for you? Because that's the same with me at a buffet, and I'm like, oh my God, there's chopped ham in the peas again. I can't eat the vegetables because they've put ham in the vegetables. Yeah. But I don't shout at them like that. It's an internal conversation, but inside I'm screaming. So you must go through the same thing, but then you do something to help and be part of the solution rather than just... Exactly. I know you're here as an activist profile, but if you fight the people, they don't want to work with you.
No,
and if you're positive with them, they'll invite your...
Yes.
They'll invite your help. They'll invite your experience, and that's where we can make a change, I think.
Yes, absolutely. I think you've touched upon some really nice points, and I like how you've summarized everything that we did. So basically, we went to 4 different hotels.
Well, I didn't summarise it because I didn't say any of that.
No, I mean, but it was
people won't know where we've been or what we've done.
No, that's why I'm going on with. Yeah. So basically, we got a chance to audit 4 different types of hotels on their invitation. So it was not something that we did involuntarily. This is important because it tells us that hotels have realized their spaces should be inclusive, and particularly to people with disabilities, and they are also one step ahead of asking for the guest experience as well. Hence, I got a chance to stay them with you, and we looked at it from different perspectives. We had discussions with them. Sometimes we did get a little into an argument. For example, I remember this one time when I said, at a particular hotel, I said, you know what, I think this chair, the shower chair, is not accessible. And they said, but we do have the shower chair. I said, there was no way for me to know that. I wasn't informed at the check-in. Exactly. So sometimes properties don't want to be told that they're not accessible because they want to believe that they're in the hospitality industry, they're one of the best. So it's very tricky. And I like how you said that although I do carry the activist profile, but we need to be mindful activists about using the right language so that the ultimate goal is good change. That is the goal. The goal is not to have arguments and fights about, because we're not trying to create negativity. So it's very tricky, and Jo, it has taken me some time to even realize that, to develop my leadership style, that it should be assertive, but it should come from a solution point of view. And it takes time. It's okay, because initially, if you look at my interviews in Pakistan when I'm like 20, I'm literally shouting in the media. Like all these mics are here and they're like, what do you think about something? And I'm like, this government, these people, they don't care about disabled people. They don't do anything. They think we are weak. And those interviews are out there. But and now if you compare that today, I'm talking in a much more sober and calm way. But it's a journey. So coming back to what we did, so these 4 hotels were like 4 different types of industries, and what type of clientage do they have. And I'm very happy about this diversity because it gave us a lot to think on as well. That, for example, in a hotel like Surfing Colors, the clientage is like very laid back, chilled out. It's a surfer community. They're looking for that experience, but people with disabilities could fall into that category as well. And then all the way to Lopesan, this aristocrat, amazing resort that's so beautiful, concerts every night, morning time is all about the pool and beach. But then a lot of elderly people come for experiences like those, and they could be people that have walked all their life, but the last 10 years of their life, they're in that situation. Can the hotel give them an experience that is so mind-blowing that they forget that they're now in this state, So I totally like what you said about the guest experience, that it's not just infrastructure, it is the communication, it's the guest experience, and the best way to get that is by actually asking the guest on what is the experience. It's that simple. So we got a chance to do that. And I would also like to go towards sustainability. So one of my great motivation to come here was to learn about sustainability from you, and of course have an exchange of ideas on accessibility. But knowing what we've done with it, I have to say that sustainability is something I have learned in school as part of the school curriculum. And I was the deputy environment president in my college. So I was already into environmental activism as well, because I think it's all connected.
Yeah.
You can't do one and leave the other out. It's nature and people together.
Yeah.
And I learned that there's so much that one can do, but we don't understand what to do, like really what to do, what is it. So I remember now, if I have to say that when I go to places, I am looking for the water dropping. I am looking for what chemicals are being used. I do look for the accessories in the room, if they are plastic or a more sustainable material that is used. And electricity, I do check for the water pressure, how much is water, how much is air. So I think developing this environmental lens is remarkable, but I would like you to also dive a bit more into the audits that you do on on sustainability.
Yeah, so the sustainability audits that I undertake are for a certification called Travel Life, which is really well known, particularly in Europe, but it operates globally. And there's 22 auditors around the world, fabulous team based out of London. And it was first created, or it started back in 2004, I think, was when it first started to be, or the question set first started to be formulated. And I first audited using Travel Life in 2007. So it's a long time ago. And what I really liked about it then, and this is probably what fueled my journey into sustainability more deeply, is half of the question set was environmental and half of the question set was social and economic, because you can't do, or you shouldn't do, if you want to do it holistically, environmental on its own. But when you speak about sustainability to so many people, their focus is environment. And it's important. So when we do our audits, we want to know that hotels have got their energy and their resources under control. We need to see how they're recording that. Have they got building management systems? Have they got it automated? Do they just need to give us their energy and water receipts, for example, and they're putting those into a spreadsheet? Are they watching their trends? So are they using their data, particularly from energy and water, not just to, like we said before, not just to tick a box to say, right, we write the measurements down, but to actually do something about it? So to some hotels, for example, will set a warning in a system so that if it goes over so many kilowatt hours of energy at a certain time, or so many meters cubed of water being used, they'll set off an alarm. And so that gives them an opportunity to think, right, either something's going on that shouldn't be in terms of energy use, or there could be a water leak that's just happened, that's just sprung somewhere, but they're using the data to manage the hotel better. So they're not just writing down how many kilowatt hours we've got per day for the sake of it. So we expect them to use the data that they've got to actually manage. Same with waste. So the waste should be weighed. They should know how much paper is being used, how much cardboard, how much glass, how much plastic, how much food waste. Now, sometimes they get that data from the waste companies that pick it up. Sometimes they'll keep the data in-house themselves. But again, if you only kind of like write that down and don't then go back and look at it and normalize it by doing your per guest night, because obviously in August you're going to use more water because it's height of summer here, so you expect your water consumption to go up. And if you do it per guest night, you might actually see that in August we're actually better per guest night on water use, because a swimming pool is a swimming pool whether you've got 100 people in the hotel or 1,000 people in the hotel. Yes. So you can't just track the consumption of anything or the overall waste without normalising it per guest night. Otherwise, it doesn't really tell you what your actual performance is. So things like that from an environmental and resource perspective, we look at to see what they're managing. We want to know that they've got proper policies in place for all of these things, and that they're living the policies. So it's not just a written policy on a piece of paper and then nobody's actually putting that into practice. We need to see that they've got action plans, they've got targets, how are they going to achieve those, who's responsible for them, how do they map the targets and monitor them to see if they're on track or not on track. And if they don't achieve them, it doesn't matter as long as they know why they haven't achieved them. It's literally, you've got to manage this. Then you mentioned chemicals before, so we don't just look at consumption of chemicals, we look at how they're stored. If they're not stored well and they could fall on the floor, for example, and they're next to a drain, then chemicals could get into natural water systems. So they need to be stored properly. So we'll go into all of the storage areas. We want to make sure that certain types of chemicals are not stored in the same container. So for example, for a swimming pool, if you've got chlorine to keep the pool clean and you've got pH to manage the balance, they should not be in the same container because they really react dangerously. And so we need to make sure that they've got those in the right place, that there's health and safety equipment in there for the staff. So they need to have the right kind of breathing masks. So if they do have to deal with a chemical incident, they're protected. So protecting your staff is still part of sustainability. It's well-being of the staff. So there's an element where health and safety also comes into play. So we're looking to all of those places. We're looking to the kitchens, how much food they're producing, whether they do that based on they've got some kind of forecast of how many people are staying in the hotel so that they don't over produce what's going out on the buffet. How do they arrange that when they're getting to the end of the shift, for example, that they're not putting out brand new plates of full food when there's only 20 people left to come in? So do they know, are they counting that? Is there somebody at the door who can say, do you know what, we've got 300 people in, 260 have already eaten, stop now? What kind of processes have they got in place? What are they doing with that waste? Where's it going? Who's picking it up? What about the dangerous waste, light bulbs, batteries, those types of things? We also want to know about that. But very importantly, we want to know what's your position in terms of the social issues in your destination. So every destination has got different social issues, and hotels found this one harder to manage. And I think once you have that conversation with them, what are the issues here? Is it drugs? Is it homelessness? Is it depending on where you are there communities close by without access to water? So it can be different in every destination. So really having an understanding of what the local issues are and then finding a way to use your influence for good. So it could be through simply donating to charities that look after that, but you could do more. You could offer employment options, for example, to people who maybe don't have such good prospects of employment. You could offer internships for people to be able to learn about the hotel sector or the tourism sector, to give them a little bit of background and some sort of experience so they could go on to find other jobs. You could have your staff volunteering in places and taking skill sets out to communities. So you could have imagine you could have a repair cafe or something somewhere, and your technical services people could volunteer at that for 2 hours a week or something. There's so much more that you can do, but a lot of the hotels just see it as we'll pay some money to a charity. And that's our social. But it's also, your social responsibility is, have we got a disco in the hotel and it's playing till 12 o'clock at midnight and we're surrounded by residential properties? Are we causing noise pollution? Have we got the chimneys, the things that take all the smoke and the steam out of the engine rooms and whatever? Where are they aimed at? Who's suffering potentially because of this? Does the fact that everybody that has to bring deliveries to our hotel cause backups of traffic for people that live locally? There's loads of things that you could think about. What is our impact on society, and also what's society's impact on us? And then have those kind of stakeholder engagements, and you can't fix everything, but we look to see, are they aware about all of these things, impacts, good and bad, and are they using, wherever they can, the policies, procedures in place to do the best they can, even for their staff. So staff well-being is part of that. The customer service is part of that. So it takes a long time to do an audit properly, and we go into a lot of depth. People don't realise, I think, what's involved, but that's how we end up learning so much and finding such good practices in so many places that you can then take little nuggets and tell other people about, so you can share the good, you know, and help people to see what might not be doing so well, to actually, but I've got a great idea of how you could get over that. Sharing that.
Perfect. Actually, we have to speed up a little because we're over an hour already, and it's like and we still have some questions, so we have to like keep things a bit short and just speed up.
I would speak.
Don't worry, I didn't want to interrupt you because everything you're saying is like very good, and we need that. But sadly, because of the time right now, but you know how I feel. Okay, so where do I start from? You touched upon some really good things, and I'm glad you summed up everything. So blah, should be on the camera. Okay. So I think being in the space with you and taking that lens from you has really been impactful. And I do believe that if hotels and spaces do it the right way, they not just have less waste, but they can save money, and they can actually become solution grounds as well, because these are spaces where people come. It's a great opportunity. I loved how once you even pointed out about culture, that these are also culture breeding spaces where you could create culture. And then I also thought about peace, that a lot of us come from countries that are conflicted. We come from so many areas that we carry those baggages. So if we can come to a destination and actually feel the peace of it and take back the message of peace, I think the world can really start moving into a better place. At the same time, Jo, I'm also more conscious of living an environment friendly life, or a more conscious life, that my existence should only be a contributing factor and not a factor that takes away from the environment. And once I'm long gone, I want to die with the peace that I contributed and I was here as a resource. So I'm going to ask you for three tips that I can start applying, particularly in my traveling life. That what are 3 things I could do to become a more environmentally conscious traveler?
I'll be brief. So I think who you choose to travel with, I don't mean your travel companion, but I mean a travel company, or the hotels that you choose to stay in. So you can, bit more challenging for you because you don't then just have to look for sustainability, you've also got to look for the accessibility. This is why it's so important that they promote this in the first place. But choose to stay at the hotels that are already doing it well, or kind of like they're doing sustainability on your behalf. And you can generally find it on their websites because they've got sustainability pages at the bottom and you can see what they're doing. So if you choose the ones that do well, you're already contributing.
That's step 1.
So when you're in a destination, do exactly as you do now. Go out and see the destination. If you've got money to spend it in local businesses, on local food, in the local economy. Don't go to McDonald's or whatever it is, which I know you wouldn't do, but you know, a lot of people are not necessarily sure what's local and where to go. So if you don't know, ask the reception staff for that. Where could I go to get a really local experience and enjoy that and find that? And then I think the third thing that you could do is just be conscious of what it is that you're using and what you're doing, your own kind of resource use when you're in a place. So when we're on holiday, we want to eat a bit more, we want to perhaps, you know, lounge under the shower a little bit longer, but just be mindful and, you know, try to have the same behavior you would have at home. But particularly when it comes to food, because buffets there's a lot of stuff to choose from. Don't pile up your plate, you know, get small plates. Think, I'll go back later if I want some more. Or I'll just try tiny bits of something. If I don't know what it is, I'm not going to pile loads on in case I don't like it. And then I've got to leave it all behind. So you can still really, really enjoy your holiday, but have your same behavioural traits that you would at home over here. So you're not being stingy with yourself. You're just having plans to make sure you don't overconsume and cause issues yourself.
You know, I've realized that you enjoy more at the end of your holiday when you realize that I've gone through all of these stages, and I love how you put it, because these are such doable things. And by the end of the day, it's not rocket science. It's just a mental clarity on, do I need to do this? What are the consequences of this action? And I love how you said that we can maybe take ownership of the space we're in, because that's exactly what hospitality means, that if I'm here, I'm a guest and I'm being taken care of. So maybe I should take care of my space, my room. I should try to keep it as clean as I can. I know there's going to be housekeeping staff out there to take care of things, but to have that contribution in her minusing of her time or his time into cleaning actually eventually gives you joy. It compounds. So by the end of the day, you have lots of pictures, you have stories, you've had good experiences, but you're going home with an add-on that you managed to give back.
Yeah.
So it's not just an exchange of money and an experience. It's actually that bubble of joy that comes with these decisions and this mindset. And I think over the years, I've tried to develop this like a muscle to be more conscious and just carry on with these three things. And I'm sure there are more that we could do, but it's an evolving conversation. I would also like to ask you, Jo, about what's really happening at the end of the industry. For example, here the Canary Islands, it's a huge touristic place. It's booming. We heard a lot of conversations on how the locals are not happy with so many hotels being built every day. I got a chance to go to a fishing village in Fuerteventura, and the first thing I thought was, what a beautiful village. I wish they had a coffee shop here. But I immediately retracted my thoughts that no, if there is a coffee shop here, it only means more people coming here, and it's going to disturb the local people over here. So I'd rather just go there, look at the sunset, look at the beautiful houses, and get out. Because not everything is a Disney park. People are living there. It's their home. It's what they belong to. So I think as tourists, we need to understand that as well. But a few ideas on what's actually happening globally in the travel space. What do you think is going to be like in the future in terms of sustainability, accessibility? What do you think?
I hope it's going to be better. I really hope so. I think it's one of those things, isn't it? Everybody wants tourism because of the potential, income that it brings, the jobs that it brings, etc. That's what the destinations want. But a lot of destinations are more worried about numbers, how many people are coming, rather than the quality of the people that are coming to the destination. And I think that's what, especially in Canary Islands, we're small islands, there's only so much capacity that you can take, and you just can't keep adding and adding to that capacity, especially if you do it for the kind of cheaper end of tourism, because the cheaper end of tourism will also generally mean that the jobs that people can get are not necessarily well paid, high paid jobs, or they're not jobs that people want to be in, or the issues that are unfortunately causing a lot of problems at the moment in the Canaries and elsewhere are the cost of housing for local people. So you can't even live close to where you work, which causes a lot of problems when it's, how to get to work, how the public transport isn't always available, or you've got children that you need to take to school, pick up, go to after school clubs with. So you're constantly needing to be in the car. Price of petrol is expensive, and the salaries in tourism don't reflect the cost of living, and the cost of houses certainly don't reflect the cost of living. And so it's the system and the way that the system works at the moment that is upsetting people more than tourists. It's not that they don't want the tourists to come. We need tourists in places, we need tourism as an industry, but we need the systems around it to be better, to be more thoughtful of the people that have got to take the impact of that. People who can never park outside of their own houses because there's so many tourists there instead, or, the people that have lost normal community services, supermarkets, etc., into gift shops because there's more tourists. So actually, where you live, you can't even go out and just do a normal shop. Or, find a laundrette or something if you need one, because they've all been taken over with really expensive cafes, bars and gift shops that local people don't necessarily need. So it's almost like we're putting the tourist needs ahead of everything. And there needs to be a better balance. I think that's what we need to be able to do, and sustainability can help us with that. And if we've got different KPIs, so if the destination's KPIs are about quality of tourism, or maintenance of spaces, or privacy of locals, etc., if that is incorporated into tourism KPIs, then we would plan the infrastructure and the activities differently. But that needs to come from the top. That needs to come with leadership, and it also requires us as tourists when we go to other places to accept, like you said, that no, there can't be a specific kind of service everywhere that I want, because I am in somebody's home. Exactly. Do you want that everywhere in your own place where you live? Do you want there to be people at the end of your road all the time? No, none of us do. So we've got to be mindful of that. I don't think I've got the answer. It's a very complicated system.
And I also feel it's an evolving conversation, because with so much innovation happening and so much destruction happening, because we've not taken the whole concept of climate change seriously. Like the way we talk about human rights, it is nature, and we don't educate ourselves on it. We become mindful of our options. Also, I feel that sometimes there are no options. There's just one thing, and it's shoved down our throats by the big giants who have money, and definitely they had the expertise and power to make better decisions in terms of clothing, for instance. I mean, what a dump of clothing that we have. But I do think it's an evolving conversation, and people like you and I, we need to become stronger voices on what needs to be done. And it comes from a very personal space of our desire to see a more just and safe world for each other. I also think that in terms of industry in Pakistan, I can bet there isn't a single hotel that has an accessible room. I'm putting a challenge out there. If you have one, please reach out and maybe I'll treat you to coffee. But I'm betting there isn't. And every time I have to travel in Pakistan for work, it's a nightmare between me and my organizers, because it's mostly because of speaking engagements. And it's a nightmare, and then it goes back to the first part of our conversation about me becoming a burden. So they might rather get an able-bodied speaker to talk on disability, because that happens all the time. We see completely able-bodied people, or people that have nothing to do with that particular identity, speaking on those concepts, and we don't actually invite people with a lived experience because of all these logistical challenges. So in Pakistan, a lot needs to be done. I also feel over the years that it has a potential to become a good touristic destination. There's a lot that we can do, but if we don't focus on these basic hospitality mindsets, I don't think we're going anywhere with this industry. It's a beautiful country. The food is great. People are loving. They're hospitable. That's a good combination to start with, right? There's history. We're part of the subcontinent. We've had the Mughal dynasty, the partition. All of these things add to the flavor of a destination of what you've gone through. But we have a lot to do, and I think this experience has given me enough to think about and propose the right things to the people that I know. And I can tell you, I've already sent 3 pitches since yesterday. I've sent proposals since yesterday, so I'm already on it. And this actually takes me to the last segment of this podcast, that what's the way forward. Like I told you, I've already sent these pitches. I'm already all set to expand the board game in Espanol, and have you as my partner to take it forward, work with it, play with it, and see what we can do. And more collaborations, Jo. I would love to audit more spaces with you, have more comprehensive, detailed auditing. And for the hotels that we've worked with, my vision is that we work with them on a long-term basis and also create strategies for them, have a 5-year plan, and just be part of the process.
Yeah, I think that's the right thing. The concern I have about moving forward, and you just picked up on it there, is that I'm an able-bodied person that still wants to go out and speak about disability and tourism. And how do I do that feeling like I'm not an imposter? But having spent the last 5 weeks doing this together, I feel like I'm in a good space where I could offer insight, but it would never be the same without having other people with a disability up on that stage at the same time. So moving forward in that and what we want to do here, the fact that we are going to have a continued collaboration, that you're on the end of a Zoom call or a WhatsApp call or video, or we can dial you into things, and so that we can continue to work together, even if we're at a distance and you're not physically here. You know, that doesn't matter. We've still got a lot of power being able to work together and offer those services to the hotels because of what we've been able to learn together during this 5 weeks. So I want to do the same as you're doing. I want to get out there and pitch as many opportunities as we can to different types of businesses and to the associations to look at, right, how do we get some more inclusive events in hotel spaces? How do we talk about this more? How do we make sure it's on the tour operators' radar? How do we get, I guess, you know, thinking about it logically, my part in this collaboration should almost be like, how do I get able-bodied people to see accessibility as more than ramps and doors and lifts? And so I will never have lived the life that you've lived, and vice versa, you've not lived mine, but we could use our strengths on that, because I really feel strongly about getting people like me who've never had to think about this to think about it. So not to be the person that speaks up and talks about what it's like to be disabled, but to be the person that talks about what it's like to not be and to want to make places better. So I really want to have that opportunity to look at, you know, the hotel associations, membership associations, where one association has got so many different reaches to hundreds of businesses in the Canary Islands and beyond. You know, we could go really far with this, but get people all into this space where they understand how important it is. The business opportunities that they're missing are just huge. You know, they're really missing opportunities here. And it's not just to jump on a bandwagon, it's to really, really make tourism more inclusive, not just from the customer's perspective either, but looking at how many staff in the hotel are working and are able to work with their disability. How do we make adaptations for that? There's fabulous people out there, and the places are just not adapted as an employee. Or as an employer, you don't have the things in place to welcome people with different attributes, including disabilities. And we've met some brilliant people that have been working in hotels, and you know, they want to look for other opportunities. Why should they always be in the cleaning role? Why should they always be behind the scenes when we've met such fabulous characters that could easily be front of house, and they're not given those opportunities? And I think that's important as well. I'd really like to push that.
Exactly. And I think we had an interesting plan in the beginning, but this entire month has given us like more direction on how we formulated what the proposal should look like, what the hotels are expecting. I think I'm going to sneeze. No, that's the worst thing to happen in the middle of a podcast, that you pause because a sneeze is coming, but it doesn't. How long do we wait? But having said that, about what the hotels need and what can we give it to them, and how do we show them the opportunity that they're missing on. So I think there's going to be a mega trend on inclusion in the coming years, and I'm glad that we're in that space already to develop that expertise and also have the passion to put it forward. I also want to share that it's time to check out from the hotel. This is also my last day on this trip in the Canary Islands, so I'm moving into that headspace of feeling a bit melancholic already, because I have gone through a lot of experiences. I've picked up some really good habits from Jo and Adrian, who works with Jo. So with Jo, I have learned how to wake up early and actually chase the sunrise. And she really inspired me, because that's a really traveler thing to do. Staying in the hotel is not a traveler thing to do. That's totally in my comfort zone. But to wake up early, find out where the sun is rising from, and go there and just be part of that experience, I think among so many other things, this has been one thing that I'm mindfully taking back. And then from Adrian, I would say that I switched to black coffee, and he told me it's great, it's good, you'll be fine. And now I think I feel more energized if I have black coffee instead of coffee with milk. But maybe some evenings I could even go for one with milk. So not just going back with experiences, but also these habits and these leadership changes are the real takeaways. And I'm super grateful for your mentorship, for your kindness, for your love. And I have to say one thing, that the way Jo understands my sense of humor, my God, I feel belonged now, because I've always found myself in positions where nobody got my sense of humor, but I could say something and Jo is actually laughing and I'm like, she gets it. I mean, so that connection that I feel with you, it's gonna stay there forever.
Yeah.
It's never going anywhere. And I think I find in you a friend, a mentor. I think I can totally call you at any point and say, Jo, I'm stuck here, please help me. And I know that I'm only gonna get support at the other end, and that's exactly what is there for you as well. Just call me anytime. And this has been absolutely a delight and a changing experience of my life.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. Thank you. Oh, wow. Wow, I don't know what you want to do at the airport, Jo.
We'll manage.
I mean, like, oh God, Jo, you're a beautiful person, I swear, inside and out. Like everything about you.
You can't cry, you've got makeup on.
Okay.
Yeah, I can cry.
No.
I don't do makeup.
No, you shouldn't cry either. No, I want you to cry. But I mean,
No, but it's not just sad because you're going, it's everything that we've
everything.
done. There's a lot of emotional depth to what we've both done, because we've had a totally cross-cultural experience of me and you in so many ways,
Yeah.
in a destination that I've lived in for a long time, but it's a first for you, but still, totally different because I'm not Canarian.
yeah.
It's still a different place for me. So we've done there's a lot of depth that we've unpicked. We've had massive conversations of
Absolutely.
all kinds of different things, and so it's kind of that that overwhelm of it.
Yeah.
There's an emotional connection
Yeah.
to all of it. So it's like, it's not just sad. It's like I cry at everything. I cry when I'm happy.
Yeah, I think
Cry
it's
when
a
I'm
beautiful
upset.
human
It's like
expression.
it's a
and
emotional
I would just randomly laugh at our buffet, shenanigans when we're just running around getting food, and then everything was about this whole journey was so beautiful. Then us driving around, going to South, and really being comfortable in each other's space. I was so full of joy in every way, because I know I'm having fun, I'm learning, and whatever I'm doing is really changing my life. I'm picking up these things. So this has to be one of the most life-changing experiences of my life.
Great.
Yes, I have to say that, and I keep reflecting on it, that something's changing. This is what it is. When you meet people, they literally touch you with their own essence, and it's a gift.
Exactly.
It's a gift, and I really hope that you never lose it. I really hope that people around you see your value, and they celebrate that they have someone like you in their lives. I mean, I'm already jealous of your
Both
nieces and
sides,
nephews, and they get to have you as their aunt. I'm too old for that. So I'd rather stick to friend. and you're not that old either. You have to become my auntie. But I think I have the best relationship, and that is our friendship. So
It's been really good.
So
Definitely.
shall we move ahead with the promise that there's gonna be more?
Oh, definitely.
There's gonna be more.
Definitely. Yeah.
Lovely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So thank you everyone for being part of this journey and for taking just a tiny bit of the experiences we've had. Really hope that this podcast would inspire you to become environmentally conscious, accessibility wise conscious, and just enjoy life, because the world is beautiful, people are amazing, there is amazing food everywhere. Come on. So you have to pick up yourself, take initiatives, find people that match your vibe, and trust me, this is how you live a larger than life.